Hello again. I hope you are well. I hope you are winning in your space with whatever that God has given you a chance to do, that you are doing with all your might. And I hope your family is well, your children, if you have children, your parents, if you still have parents that are possibly elderly. I hope you're well. I wanted to quickly share with you how to prevent yourself from bottling things up. I find that as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as students, as just individuals, we tend to struggle with the idea of getting through stuff and moving forward from it. How do you process your emotions when you're going through stuff? This video is about that. If you are a person who is perhaps very sensitive, you easily cry, you are easily angered, you are easily irritable, you're easily frustrated, you might really benefit from this. And if you're a person who sort of pushes down their emotions, or you feel like, you know what, you are calm, and if you are going through pain or something, excitement, you are just that person who is always calm. Even if you're that kind of a person, you still need to learn to process your emotions. And I feel like each time we talk about these things, it feels like we are only speaking to people that are sensitive, that we can all see them, expressing how they feel. But it's all these topics are also for those people that are always calm, that are, and when things happen, you don't necessarily cry or scream or throw a tantrum. But every single person has emotions. Every single person go through stuff. And so this video is beneficial for that. I'm going to share what I have done in a long time. I think perhaps since high school. That I've done this, where I use a few things that I'm going to share just now. But let me introduce to you, I know people such as counselors, such as perhaps people that are serving in structures like in committees. You will have moments where you'll gather around, and it's sometimes called a regroup or a debrief. Now, this concept, for someone who is not familiar with, whether it's counseling or these platforms that I've just named, you might struggle to understand, what does debrief have to do with anything? Well, debrief gives you a chance to look back and analyze how things turned out. You look at what went well, what didn't go well, why did it go well, what happened, what was affected, what was impacted, and you look at different things and you analyze. The idea is that by the time you go out again or do the same activity again, you have a clear picture of what works and what doesn't work. And so in the context of debriefing as an individual, you want to start today knowing that whatever happened yesterday, you have dealt with it. If there were wins, if there were failures, if there were setbacks, if there were challenges, you have dealt with every emotion, so that by the time you go into a new day, you have the strength, you have the capacity, the emotional capacity especially, and for my context, the spiritual capacity to face a new day. And so this is how I do it. Normally, I would have Normally, you'll have plans that you have created for yourself, and you will have, clear goals. Maybe you have plans for the day. However, things may turn out to be, you work out in a different way, in the manner that you haven't really predicted. And so those times where you face something that was unpredictable, that you did not foresee, you tend to be experience that in the manner that you least expected. And so it's either you get overwhelmed or shocked, but you go through emotions. Let's say you went into a shop, and you're expecting to buy 1, 2, 3, 4 items, and then you get there and they give you for free. You did not expect that. Maybe your card won something. I've won something before. Maybe that's why I'm making this example. I went to shopping at the spa and voila. And I'm thinking, you should have told me before I collected my groceries, because then I would have put more in my trolley. But anyway, those were unpredicted emotions that I dealt with, which were good, and which were exciting for me. But an opposite could happen. I could be in a day, in a meeting that I was expecting to go beautifully with possibly with a client or with my team members or with my investors, and it could go left, and I could be left feeling like a failure, feeling like I was caught off guard, feeling betrayed by the situation. And those emotions are very real. And so sometimes we think we have to go and debrief things that didn't go well. But you have to debrief even things that did go well, because the reason is some of us are not used to excitement. And so when we are caught off guard, that excitement in our brain is actually it becomes traumatic. And so when you don't get a chance to pause and reflect and say, that good thing that happened, I deserved it. I was worthy of that good thing. And it doesn't just happen once in a lifetime. It can happen tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And soak yourself in that joy. So the debrief moment will give you that. And you will not believe, you can even, start thinking about things that happened in the past while you are debriefing. Even when you have had, traumatic experiences, they might come up. Perhaps you felt undermined in a boardroom meeting, and it actually is provoking something that happened while you were a child. And when you are debriefing, those things can surface, and you can say, why did it offend me so much? Why did it hit me so hard? You get to then deal with those things so that by the time you go back, you are actually free. So how I've been able to do my debrief, I try to debrief on every day. I try to ask myself, how are you doing? And I try to answer this question as much as possible. I try to do that in the morning or in the evening. Sometimes I take selfies and I look at my picture and think, how are you feeling, Mabongi? And try and discover how is Umabongi doing. So how I do that, I keep a journal. That's the first thing. I keep a journal that I use. I have multiple journals. I've got so many journals. I mean, this size for me is like 6 months because I write a lot. I write notes for church sermons. I write my dreams. I wake up and I journal my dreams and I try to interpret them. I write my thoughts, my ideas. There's another big book for ideas, and I try and just play around with ideas. I also write some of the things that I dream about, just things that I wish to have. I write, and so the journal is good for that. It's also good for debrief. Now, where you feel like, there's a lump in my chest and I don't know what it is. Now, I think the catch with emotions is that sometimes we don't know what we're feeling. We don't know how to interpret what we're feeling. We don't know how to articulate how we're feeling. I'll give you an example. An example could be, you are feeling angry, but then you are actually not angry. Maybe you are sad. Whatever happened did not just make you angry. Anger was just your reaction to the situation, because anger is such an easy emotion for everybody. but actually you were sad because this provoked something that breaks your heart, that really breaks your heart. For instance, if you feel like someone is taking you for granted, that thing, if you think about it, it makes you sad. It's possible that it doesn't make you angry, but you might have at the time reacted with anger. Another thing would be, I feel sad because this happened, or I got betrayed by a friend and our friendship broke up, broke apart, or this. And you might be not just sad, but you might be grieving. And so sometimes we tend to feel like we only grieve when somebody has died. But when we lose something, my cell phone is stolen, I grieve the loss of my cell phone, I got fired in this job that I loved, or maybe I was let go unfairly, you grieve. I remember I was grieving. I discovered months later that I was grieving a business that I had closed so that I go back to school full time. I didn't realize that I was grieving my business. The business that I had planned to close, the business that I knew that I didn't have a choice but to close. Yet I had I felt such loss in my heart, and so journaling and asking those questions and trying to answer them as honest as possible, and unlocking whatever page that your mind and your heart takes you to. You can journal all of those thoughts. Another thing that I do is self-talk. You might have heard me saying, Mabongi, are you okay? So how I do my self-talk, I talk in third person. Talking in third person is like, it's like you're taking the you that's not in this mess. And they're more objective, they're more calm, they're more wiser than the person who's in the mess, who's in the actual distress. And so you speak in the third person, not as a like you're going crew or something. No, you're not going crazy, but it's a version of you that is more calmer. It's a version of you that would be sincere with you, will be honest. They will not let you get away with the wrong things. They will still tell you, oh, Mabongi, you were wrong. Or Mabongi, no, you're being hard on yourself. It's the better version of me. So I speak in a third person. The best version of me will lead me into a more healthier place. And so I speak in third person for that reason. And so I call myself, in the name Mabongi, how are you feeling? That's how I do it. Mabongi, how are you feeling? You don't seem to be doing well today. What's wrong? Did you really have to be so worked out about this? What is really the matter? Were you angry for this, or is there something else? And I try and ask and give umabongi that is fragile, umabongi that has been feeling this emotion, to give her a chance to explain herself, to bring herself into consciousness of the emotions that she's feeling. And so I do that. It's quite a funny thing, and it doesn't go for hours. It's just a quick thing that makes me that helps me be self-aware of where I'm at and how I'm feeling. And so that has been helpful. Another thing that has been helpful for me is going to therapy. Now I know that some of us do not afford the service, but we cannot use that as an excuse. So look around where you can find help. If you need to be speaking to someone, look around your family. Who can you trust? Look around your community. Look around your church. Find help. Do not, make excuses and let you not find help. Now, when do you know that actually now you don't just need to debrief or journal or self-talk? This is more serious than just something that you can go through by yourself. if whatever you're going through is now interrupting your daily routine, that's a good indication to tell you that you need to debrief. For instance, you're withdrawn from the activities that you normally would do. For instance, if you are a person who loves sports and there's a game that's playing and you don't want to watch it, you don't feel like you want to watch it and you cannot explain why, that's a good indication as well. If you don't feel like you're a person that loves his job or you love whatever you are doing, but yet you don't feel like doing it anymore and it's a random feeling, that means there's something that's going on that you really need therapy about. And another thing is, you can't sleep. That's the easiest loss of appetite, loss of sleep, distress, snapping during the day. You can't seem to be patient with anybody around you. That's a signal that something is up. And if it's going on for a week, even more, that's like a good indication for you to actually now seek help. And other things are as deep as feelings of depression, where you really feel like, you know what, I want to end this, suicide. Do not think you can go through those feelings alone. Speak to someone, bring it into the light and find help. If you feel lost and hopeless, and there's a big sense of hopelessness in you that people around you are not understanding, don't wait until those emotions are beyond what you can do, about them. Seek help. Those are some of the indications. But I love therapy because you deal with a professional. You talk in confidence. Everything is oikhuluma laphaya remains with the therapist. They are able to actually ascertain the help that you need, and they guide you, and it's all about just them asking the right questions and helping you find the right answers to those questions. The answers that help you move forward, because that's the whole idea of not bottling things up. You have to be courageous enough to be aware of where you're at and be able to overcome whatever it is. And the last thing, which is not certainly not the least, is confession in prayer. Now, I know that people tend to come to God to ask for things. They come to God to, stand in the gap for others and contend and intercede for others. But do you know that you can also come to God to debrief, to find out who you are, to find out how you're doing, to find out if you are okay, to find ways to deal with hardships that you've been facing. I find that when I go to God and just be myself and authentic and say, God, today I feel discouraged. I did this and it didn't work out. It fell apart and it made me feel like a failure. When I do things like that, I tend to, in return, feel the Father's love affirming me of who I really am, because sometimes these emotions, they tend to become our identity if we dwell on them long enough. If you're a person who's always angry, it becomes a part of you, and people think that's part of your personality or your character, and it's not. You are just broken and you need to work on those emotions and get past them. And so I hope that you find this helpful. Adopt the culture of debrief as a person. Be patient with yourself. When things happen, be patient with yourself. Be aware when you are scared. I've learned at the hard way that even when good things happen, I get consumed with anxiety. I get consumed with the thoughts of thinking these things are just here temporarily. I'm gonna go back to my old situation. And so even when things are good, I still need to debrief, because to me they bring a certain level of emotions that I need to, work on and get myself out of a pit that could possibly harm me in the days to come. And so I hope you find this helpful, because it is helpful to me. I pray that each time you exercise all of these things, that you remember that you are not the emotions. You are not the emotions. You are more than your emotions. You can cap them. You can control them. You can understand them. You can, let them work on your favor than against you. Peace out.